Here we are for round 15 of the 70s versus the 90s, and it sure was an exciting round with Don Siegel's Charley Varrick versus David Mamet's Heist. And now this one, like, man, I tell you what, Charley Varrick is like one of the greatest movies ever made. Like, just to think about where that movie even comes from, who the fuck knows? But it's definitely Walter Matthau's greatest performance, in my opinion. At least I have a lot of fun with this movie. Every time I see it, it's even better the next time. But basically, the film said the title character Charley Varrick, who Walter Matthau plays, holds up this bank in Tres Cruces, New Mexico, and they end up getting the money. His wife dies at the beginning, and getting away, the shootout and stuff. And then it's just him and Andy Robinson, who, like Don Siegel, the director of the film, they're coming off of the success of Dirty Harry. The only thing is, the only person that will hire Andy Robinson to do anything is Don Siegel, because Don Siegel is the only one that knows he's actually an actor. Everybody else believes he's Scorpio, because that's how good of an actor Andy Robinson is. And he's just as wormy in this one as he was in Dirty Harry. Not, no comparison is even close to that, but, he's still just one of those, it's more believable to believe that he's that as creepy as he portrays on the screen. And then, but it turns out this little, small New Mexico bank it's a mob run and shit. They use it to launder money, so now they've stolen mob money, so they've got the mob after their ass. And that's where Joe Don Baker, who plays this hitman named Molly, is exceptional. One of the greatest villains ever in a film. Like, I'm not the biggest Joe Don Baker fan, but just the contempt that he has for human beings and that shit's real. You feel that shit. But the thing of it is, Charley Varrick is the smartest one in the film, outsmarts everyone, even a bitch ass John Vernon, who, John Vernon, he was so typecast in that kind of role, and who was also in Dirty Harry as well. And the script is solid. There's not a moment in this film that is not engaging. And Walter Matthau, just a smooth pimp. Like, just fucking to the fucking very end. And plays it funny, plays it cool, plays it any way it needs to be played. And you don't always see everything that he does. It's more implied. Like the explosion at the end, you see him by the explosion. You don't know how he's gonna set this shit up. And like when he's switching the dental records with the Andy Robinson character, that he's gonna kill this motherfucker. And it's just like everything's a ruse to fucking throw off the fucking mob so he can outsmart and run off with the fucking cash. And he does this beautifully. It's a fucking, I dare say, call it a perfect movie, but people may argue some imperfections, but definitely on a scale of a Don Siegel film, it's a perfect movie. And especially coming off of Dirty Harry. Like, I mean, how do you follow a movie that momentous and you just do whatever the fuck you want to? And clearly, two solid screenwriters that he had used on occasion and delivered just a knockout fucking script. And the dialogue is fucking great, especially just the Joe Don Baker's character, just cannot be bothered with anything. He's just fucking knocking on the door while he's banging it. So the use of that pipe is just so extraordinary. Like, it's just that's how acting should be. Like, everything's believable. Like, it's not that fake glossy Hollywood bullshit. This is why the 70s are considered the greatest decade in American cinema and perhaps even the world. But then we move on to David Mamet's Heist. And, it's basically the end of the 90s. By 2001, the 90s were essentially a blip. We're in the new millennium. Who gives a shit? But we get an extraordinary cast. You got Gene Hackman, Delroy Lindo, Danny DeVito, Sam Rockwell, and it's these people. These actors deserved a way better script and a way better movie. David Mamet is such an overrated trash writer. I mean, compared to Charley Varrick, that moves like a bullet. Now, granted, Heist is only 2 minutes shorter than Charley Varrick, and it feels twice as long. I'm surprised that Charley Varrick is nearly 2 hours long. That movie feels like a brisk hour and a half for as fast as and cold as it moves. Heist, it drags along and shit. And it kind of like, it's so bad it makes me want to watch Unforgiven. That's how bad Heist sucks. It's the thing of like all these old timer fucking movies and shit, that's all well and good. But if you want to disprove the stereotype of old ass fogies just dribbling along, maybe not keep making that fucking movie. Clint Eastwood on occasion, with the exception of Forgiven, would come back and just show that an old ass man could still like have a lot of piss and vinegar and shit. And the thing of it is, the dialogue in this movie is so trash. The thing about it is, Gene Hackman can sound commanding reading the phone book. But you gotta give him some shit to work with. It ain't Hackman's fault. He can't write the fucking script. You only paid him to do is act. And Delroy Lindo's doing such heavy lifting. He's trying his best to like make this fucking just bullshit dialogue fucking ring true, And yet again, deserved a way better fucking movie. And and Danny DeVito, anybody other than Danny DeVito uttering these lines would sound completely absurd. You'd laugh him right off the fucking movie set. It's just fucking terrible. It's like these aren't even real people. The sense of danger isn't really even there. This is back to that glossy Hollywood bullshit, and it's clearly a play on those old, late 40s, early 50s film noirs, shit that Don Siegel had even made way better than David Mamet could even dream of making, but it's like, maybe it's trying to make fun of it, but the film is taking itself way too fucking seriously for me to believe that it's all a fucking joke. Because if I just assume everything's a fucking joke, then why do we even have serious film criticism? It's ridiculous. And then you got Rebecca Pidgeon, who plays the femme fatale in the film, who's also married to David Mamet. And you would think you could write a better role for your wife, dog. This shit is just fucking, it's embarrassing. Because clearly they wanted a Sharon Stone. They wanted Sharon Stone for this, and they either couldn't afford her or she wasn't acting, whatever the fuck. And I don't know. But they're clearly trying to write it for somebody that can be Sharon Stone. Rebecca Pidgeon is not really Sharon Stone. It's real out of place, in the fucking Sam. And a lot of it's just kind of just... There's, like I said, there's no danger. Nothing's really resolved. It's just like Gene Hackman's the man. He gets away with it all. There are a couple of great lines. That line at the end where he's like, "Oh, he's not going to kill you." I was like, well, then he shouldn't point his gun at me. It's just, he shouldn't point a gun at me. It's just insincere. That right there, that's cold. But like, there's some shit like, just because he's Gene Hackman, rest in peace, he gets away with it. For these long monologues, and then all the twists and turns. It's just, because you're trying to think, oh, I'm so clever writing all these twists and turns, and it's like a lot of it isn't even organic. The fucking plane heist, stealing the gold, that's pretty ballsy. I'll give you that. A very great set piece that would have been done better in the hands of a better director, somebody like Christopher Nolan. Which as he's done. So David Mamet, trash writer, director, very overrated. So this round's got to go to the 70s. Charley Varrick wins this round because. It all comes down to the writing, too. It's funny. Usually somebody with a clear, distinct voice that sits down and writes a screenplay out of the clear blue sky has a little more vibrancy than two, like, hack writers, But also the writers of Charley Varrick, Dean Reisner and Howard Rodman, they, hack writers that, would work episodic television, they'd have to resolve their shit in 50 minutes, as opposed to like, we can just find ourselves on the fucking stage type bullshit, because that's the thing about it, is the big difference. We're making movies. Now Heist honestly would probably work better on the stage, but this is a film criticism thing, 70s films versus 90s films. And it's got to play as a film, good as a film, to be able to win the round. And it doesn't even come close, because Charley Varrick blows it out of the fucking water. Because of course, Don Siegel, one of the greatest action directors of all time, basically where Sergio Leone left off, he picked up creating the image that we all know of Clint Eastwood and shit, and it's just his whole contribution to cinema, this included, is just exceptional, because this proves how skilled of a craftsman he was and how he was able to just fucking make hard-hitting, gritty entertainment, because all this shit feels real. It's very much that's why the 70s are the greatest decade, because they were able to make shit seem realistic but also entertaining, because that's what the movies are. And it has to be rooted in reality, otherwise, nobody's going to relate to it. And that's why, shit like Heist is the reason why cinema's dead. Cinema was dying, over 20 years ago. It's when cable television started being all, good and shit. You know, they're serious dramas and shit. They're outdoing the movies because why we're just redoing fucking pastiche bullshit and trying to make fun of it while also being serious. You know, how about tell a real fucking story? And that's what Charley Varrick did. Told a real fucking story. It was intense, great chase film. The pacing is, you know, and it's like there's so much shit you don't show. You know, it's just you just gotta know what the fuck you're doing, and that's what it all comes down to. It. So for any of y'all keeping score, that's 9-6 70s. 70s are up by 3. The 90s could come back. You know, they're always prone to throw a few 1-2 punches, but man, the 70s have been holding strong. You know, maybe I wasn't gaslighting myself. Maybe it is the greatest decade of all time. But I gotta go on this journey to find out so I can disprove any motherfuckers that say otherwise. And like I said, if I've said anything wrong, anything you don't like, eviscerate me in the comments. I don't give a fuck. Also, fact check me. That's what the internet's for. Fact checking and whatever the fuck. Keep me on my toes and shit. And if you got any suggestions, comment. I'll fucking, you know, I'm always down to do other matchups. I got like pages and pages of this shit to go through. So I may bump one up if suggested, who knows. Or if you want to guess, you know, you want to debate, I don't give a fuck. You know, hit me up. I have no life. That's why I'm doing this shit every fucking Saturday instead of like going out and shit. So, but 9-6, 70s holding strong. Next week, though, the 90s have a chance to take it. We have James Toback's Fingers versus Barry Sonnenfeld's Get Shorty. And that one is kind of a crime-themed June, so that one should be really fun. So, David Mamet sucks. Don Siegel's the man.